Hey, welcome. In this video, we are going to manage our signed in Firebase user with Context API. Let's go. In the previous video, when we got to know Context API, we created profile provider. So now let's use the actual state instead of just a Boolean value. So let's replace false with null, and let's define the set profile update function. All right. Then we are going to use useEffect to get user from Firebase when the component mounts. So let's use useEffect, and here what we will do, we're gonna call on auth state changed. So from Firebase.js, we are going to use our auth object, and if we put dot, if we type on, we see that we can use onAuth state changed. So this onAuth state changed allow us to subscribe to currently signed in user inside Firebase. And inside this subscription, we are able to access auth object. So let's put it like this. And for now, let's just console log auth object. Now, if we navigate back to the app, if we open our console, we will see this auth object. And if we expand it, it is exactly the same object when we signed in with either Facebook or Google. So this is how user can be managed. If we were signed off to the app, we wouldn't see this object. It would be null. So the thing is why we are seeing it currently, because Firebase manages sessions for us. We don't need to implement everything. Once we are signed in, auth object will be automatically populated for us and managed for us. We don't need to do everything. We need to only sign in or sign out, and then user object will be here. All right. So using this information, what we can do? So instead of just console log, we're gonna ask if auth object exists. If it is populated with some value, then we are going to do something. Otherwise, if this auth object is not the object, if it is null, then the user is not signed in. So this onAuth state changed called at least once when the component mounts. And if we are not signed in, then it is going to be set to null. Also, if we sign out from the application, because this is the subscription, it will be picked up by this callback and auth object will be set to null. So inside this else, we are going to set profile to null. And here, when we have the auth object, we can call set profile and put some profile data that we will define over here. So our profile data is going to be the next. It is going to be first user ID that we will get from auth object.uid, which we can see over here, and it will reflect our user ID in the auth mini library that we saw on Firebase, and also our user ID inside real-time database. Then we also want maybe email. So we're gonna pass auth object.email. And also we need our data from real-time database. So we need to actually get it here. So what we will do? As we can see, profile is already declared. All right, maybe let's just name it data and set profile data. Okay, so here to get actual data from the database for this user, we need to call again database from Misc Firebase. Then we're gonna put reference, again we're gonna put profiles, then we're gonna put auth object.uid, then we switch quotes for string interpolation, and then we want to put a real-time subscription for our user data. So if something changed, then we want to be notified about it. We don't want to manually manage everything. So with real-time database and with actually any database in Firebase, it is very easy. So to get data only once, we call .once method. To put a real-time subscription on this data, we need to put on, then we need to call it as a function, and first argument we need to specify the target, the event, let's say. So on value, we want to execute this callback. So whenever our data at this path inside database changes, like anything, this callback will be fired, like every time, and we will receive a snapshot. So let's console log snapshot, just like that. So now we are inside home because we actually get some profile data, and as you remember, inside private route we check against profile, so we don't see the sign-in page. Okay, that's good. So our data snapshot has key, node, reference, and a few other things and metadata related to this snapshot at this path inside database. Well, inside the snapshot we have this method. It is called snapshot.value. Snapshot.value, and it will give us the data from the database in form of JavaScript object. So let's say profile data equals snapshot.value, and now let's console log profile data like this. Let's check it out. Now if I refresh the page, I can see I have an object with created at and name, which is SheLooks16. Exactly the same data that we have inside database. Now, what do we need to do? We can actually destructure this profile data. We can destructure name and created at like this. And here we can move this data object to this subscription like this. And then what we can do, we can also move this set profile data over here, and for this data we can put name and created at just like that. So our profile at the end will have name, created at, UID, email. All right, so this is it, and now we pass this data profile state down the context. So inside our private route, we also need to somehow keep track if we are currently being signed in. So we need to put the loading state in order to put a spinner or something else. So let's put another state, which we will name isLoading and set isLoading. By default, it is going to be set to true. And right after we set the profile, we're gonna call set isLoading and put it to false. Or if we don't have any profile, we're gonna call set isLoading and put false as well. All right, now this isLoading we're gonna pass along with our context. So instead of just passing profile, inside we're gonna pass an object with isLoading state and also profile. So now inside our private route, when we use profile, we receive an object with isProfile and profile objects inside. So we're gonna destructure our profile from it, and the same we will do for useProfile. So now what we can do here, inside private route we can actually use this isLoading. So let's destructure isLoading, and what are we gonna ask? So we're gonna put another if over here, and we will ask if our data is loading and we still don't have any profile data, then we're gonna return container from our suite, and inside we're gonna put loader. It is going to be a spinner, also a component from our suite, and it is going to be centered. It is going to be centered vertically of size, of size equals MD. Then content is going to be loading and speed is going to be slow. And let's move it to avoid ESLint error. Let's move it just to the top like that. All right, so this is our first condition. And then we need to also modify that one. We're gonna ask if we have no profile and if we have no isLoading state, only then we are going to redirect. All right, so let's check it out. Now, when we refresh the page, we can see the spinner. Pretty cool, right? And only when we get the data, we actually see the home page. All right, let's do exactly the same thing for public route. So let's copy this logic and let's put it over here. Let's destructure isLoading, and we're gonna ask if we have isLoading and we have no profile, then we're gonna put again loading state like this. If we have profile, and well, it might be a little bit tricky. So if we have profile and isLoading is set to false, then we're gonna redirect. All right, this is basically it. I only want to do one more important step here, because we are working with subscriptions in React. Whenever we work with real-time listeners to the data, we use a subscription. So whenever we have a subscription, we need to unsubscribe from it when we don't need it. So this onAuth stage changed. If you can see, it returns Firebase unsubscribed. So it returns us a function that we need to call to unsubscribed from this subscription onAuth state changed. So let's put it, let's say auth unsub, and we will call this auth unsub in our cleanup function of useEffect. So we're gonna return a function, and here we're gonna call auth unsub, just like that. And the same actually applies for our database reference over here. So at this pass, we put a real-time listener, which is on value, and it is our callback. So we want to make sure that we unsubscribe from that one as well. So here, let's say inside this useEffect, we're gonna put, let's say, user reference. Then we're gonna assign user reference to database reference at this path, like this. And then user ref on value, we will execute this callback. Whenever we don't have any data, if our user is not signed in, if we don't have any auth object, we are going to ask if user ref is defined, then we're gonna call useRef dot off. Because if I put dot over here, I can put on, I can put once, and also I can put off. And this off, as you can see, detaches a callback previously attached with on. So we can, in this way, we can unsubscribe from this callback from this path inside the database. And actually the same we will do inside our cleanup for useEffect. So this one, whenever we signed off, and this one, whenever we unmount the component. So here we're gonna ask if user ref, then we're gonna user ref dot off, unsubscribe from this user reference. Alright, so this is basically it. I hope it wasn't too confusing, because for me, for the first time when I saw it, it was, but at the end it does make sense. Alright, let's commit our changes and finish this video. We're gonna put git add everything, then we're gonna commit everything with the message, something like manage user with profile context, put real time subs, something like this. Alright, see you in the next video.